a real live nephew of my Uncle Sam's, born on the 4th of July. Good boy!
Information is free.
The law.
There is
The Johnny Rocket Launch Pad. And now, here's Johnny.
Hey, it's Johnny Rocket here at the Johnny Rocket Launchpad, launching ideas in your direction, the Northwest's only rock and roll libertarian radio show. Always launching ideas and launching them with Kurt Nelson, my co-host.
What's up?
My voice of reason, the beautiful Heather Nixon.
Hello.
And we are on NWCZ Radio, Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., Saturdays, 8 to 10, LibertyTalk.fm, Saturday, Sunday, 4 to 6, Revere Radio Network, Saturdays, 4 to 6, Radio KSCR, Tuesdays, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., Liberty Movement Radio, Friday and Monday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. and 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., Liberty Radio Network.fm, Random Times, CMG Global Radio, Thursdays, 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., InfoSub, 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., JRLPpodbean.com, Facebook /JR Launchpad, at JR Launch on Twitter, JohnnyRocketLaunchpad.com.
Three breaths.
Wow.
3 breaths.
Wow.
Not bad. Not
Damn,
bad.
that's getting tough, man.
Yeah, it's good.
Just keep adding more and more.
That's good.
What a cool week. What about you? How you been, Kurt?
Great week, man. Great.
Right on. I've been having a battle this last week with a mouse
Oh, Lord.
in the house. And the fucker is just kind of pissing me off because, you'll be watching a movie and all of a sudden you just see something in the corner of your eye. You're
Yeah.
like, what the fuck?
And it's like you feel like someone is in your house.
Yeah. It's like you are impeding on my bubble.
Right.
This is like, you don't belong here. And you don't want to be waking up in the middle of the night and see a fucking mouse on your counter.
No. Hell no.
You know what I mean? I'm not afraid of them, but I just don't want to see it when I least expect it. And it'll just scare the shit out of me.
It's not good.
You know what I mean? You don't want to see a mouse in your bathroom.
You scream like a little girl.
Yeah. No, it's not cool.
No.
But that's what I've been dealing. So Heather bought some mouse traps today.
Yes.
So I'm excited. I hope
You're hoping to have a dead mouse when you get home.
Yeah. Totally, dude.
Nice.
I'm
Nice.
thinking they're going to be all popped because somehow Harvey's going to get behind the refrigerator
No.
and he's going to be curled up in the corner crying.
We used peanut butter for the mouse. I guess that's the
Right. That's the thing. That's the thing.
That's the gig.
We had him here for a minute, and it's probably
In the studio or in your
in the
joint?
studio. Yeah.
Okay.
As we were kind of doing the demo and all that stuff, I'm sure we stirred some shit up or whatever.
Right.
Todd actually had one die. I'll not go into detail, but he had one die and fall out of the roof onto his pillow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why, he was sleeping?
He woke up to it there. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, our, we live in a converted house,
Mhm.
and the middle of the house, the middle apartment, the people who own the house live there, and their snowbirds are down in Arizona for 6 months out of the year.
Sure.
Well, we can hear things upstairs in their house, and it is not a mouse.
No.
It is something quite larger, maybe bigger than a rat, maybe a possum, maybe a raccoon. We're not sure, but I can hear it jump off their bed when I'm in the bedroom, and then you hear it scurry across because it actually thumps when it lands
Wouldn't
on the
it
floor.
suck if they just they had a possum chilling in their crib for 6 months?
I'm sure that their furniture is probably just
Destroyed.
bedding,
Mm-hmm.
shredded.
Yuck.
But
Not
it's
good.
big, and we can hear the scratches, and there's other people who live above them in the same house. And I talked to them. I said, have you heard any scratches on the walls and shit, in the middle of the night? And they'll be like, yeah, I thought we're crazy, but yeah, we've been hearing it's loud. What the fuck? And I'm like,
dude, they're hosting a raccoon.
Something.
either a raccoon, a rat, a huge ass fucking dog, or
Dude,
something.
if it
I don't know.
thumps when it gets down off the bed, that's bigger than a rat.
Yeah, it's large. And we did notify the property manager.
Good call.
I don't think he needed
He
that.
hasn't shown up. That's why
don't
our
know,
rent's
right?
so cheap.
Okay. Yeah, good. All right.
Yeah,
Excellent.
welcome to Tacoma. Anyway, so we have a very special guest here
Very
at the
special.
Johnny Rocket Launchpad. Every guest is special here, man.
Special ed.
But actually, I got
Nope. This one is the most special ever.
the most specialist.
The specialist.
The specialist.
And not in the short bus riding kind of way.
No. Come on.
Good friend of mine. Actually, me and this guy talk a lot. He's a libertarian. He's kind of a liberty-minded guy. I don't know if he's necessarily a libertarian, but he's definitely on the same sheet of music that we are here on the Johnny Rocket Launchpad. He has his own radio show. It's called On the Move, and his name is, get ready for it, welcome, Mack Worley! Woo!
Thank you. How you guys doing tonight?
Good, man. welcome to the Johnny Rocket Launchpad.
It's good to be back. It's a real honor to be back here. Unfortunately, I'm not in studio with you guys. That was a blast last time I was in there. But yeah, I'm happy to be back. Thank you so much for thinking of me.
Oh yeah, man, you're great, and thanks a lot for coming on. You had me on your show probably about a month and a half ago on the Move Show, and thank you very much for that opportunity. I thought it was I had a great time.
Oh man, and you're welcome back anytime, man. I love having you on. Just the stuff that we talk about. I have a real good time. I like your take on things. And, we can bounce ideas off each other and just kind of riff every now and then. I like that.
Yeah, launching ideas in your direction. That's what we do here on the Johnny Rocket Launchpad. So, me and Mac have been talking about some things, mostly, as of lately. We've been kind of like making personal phone calls and talking about the Constitution. And I think it's a very important thing that, we probably talk about. We really don't talk about the Constitution that often. And I wanted to kind of shoot the shit with you in regards to, some of these subjects and your take on these things. Here's a question for you. Mac, can you be free and ignorant?
I think that's a recipe for disaster. If you are ignorant, you may be free like what we are right now. It's kind of a state of this term is used a lot, soft tyranny, where we can still go out and we can get our grande latte enema, and we can still go to the movie theater and all this stuff, and this is not actually stuff that we're being prevented from doing. But as we continue to stay in this perpetual state of ignorance, that we lose more rights. The government starts gaining more control over us, and eventually we are not free. So you can be in that state, but not for long.
Oh, I'm with you because I think if the longer we remain ignorant of the Constitution, our rights, the laws that are available to us, the quicker they're going to go away because people just don't know it. And it would be all based on emotion versus actually knowing the law.
But isn't that bliss? Ignorance? Bliss?
That's what they say. It's a good point, though. I mean, because your gut instinct is well, of course you can be, right. But that's a quick recipe to lose your freedom.
Sure. Right. Absolutely. Mac, equality seems to be more popular than individual liberty nowadays. Why do you think that?
As far as equality, what I've noticed recently is that equality isn't even what is being asked for anymore. It seems to be preferential treatment or special rights and privileges, and we're not talking about what is equal anymore. It's more of a sense of entitlement of what is owed. So, though I think equality is extremely important, individual rights are paramount, and for me, rights should be equal. At no point does someone else's rights supersede another person's rights.
Right on. I'm with you, man. I think you're right. Everyone wants entitlements. I am owed something. It's the government needs to take care of me. They need to take care of me. Everyone needs to take care of me, and I have no responsibility for anything. And that's the problem. That's a dangerous thought process.
Well, it's things like affirmative action. It's just no longer needed. Best candidate gets the job, period.
Right. Absolutely. Here's a constitutional kind of history question for you. Why did we declare ourselves independent from Britain? And could you give us a little bit of a backstory and the deal with that?
Absolutely. And we can relate it to kind of what we're seeing now. A lot of people probably could make these parallels, but the main reason was no taxation without representation. So the colonists, they were over there, and they were still subjects of England. So they were still subjects of the crown, and they are forced to pay taxes for wars that the crown had fought for the 13 colonies, like the American Indian War, things like that. The French Indian War. That's what it was.
Right.
This war was very costly, and the crown was basically just trying to make some of its money back. But these colonists didn't have any rights in the government. They couldn't make any changes or affect any change in the government. And they tried to address some of these problems that they had, and they were ignored, and they were continued to get ignored. And eventually they revolted, and it had things kind of like the Boston Tea Party, and it just kind of accelerated from there after Thomas Paine's pamphlet. It kind of changed some hearts and minds and got people to come to the side of the colonists who were actually trying to fight for the liberty and freedom that they felt they deserved.
Right on. Speaking of Thomas Paine, what do you know about him? I know, he did the Common Sense papers, but, what else has he contributed to our country?
He's kind of a complicated guy. I've studied him a little bit, but I still got to crack some books open on him. Okay. I know he wrote American Crisis. That's one little section that he did, and that had a pretty big impact. But his most famous work is Common Sense, and that is basically the kindling that started the fire for the American Revolution. There was a lot of people were very very on board with England and the crown, and that really opened up a lot of people's eyes. And it didn't convert everybody, but it changed the dynamic. It changed the conversation that was happening at the time.
Right. No, you're absolutely, yeah, exactly. Because he changed a lot of the loyalists and a lot of the undecideds over to the patriot side. Fuck Britain. Fuck them. We have no representation. They're overstepping their reach. We just got done with the French and Indian War. They're trying to tax us a lot more than what we agreed to. I believe they said that we'll answer to our own legislation or our own local government, but we will not answer to Britain's so-called sovereignty over the 13 colonies.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, if you're talking about a group of people that that they consider themselves British subjects, but they have no say in the British society or British government, you can see how that would frustrate you.
Right on. Is it true that we're supposed to be a loose union of sovereign states instead of explain the whole state thing and how that works and how we're sovereign, how we're intentionally supposed to be that way?
Okay, so this is a whole conversation is basically, in a nutshell, it's about state sovereignty. It's about states' rights, essentially, to be independent nations. I personally believe, and again, this is my opinion, and I think that I'm correct, and other people would disagree with me and say, no, you're not. But all of this is basically a matter of interpretation and opinion. So I'll give you mine.
Okay, yeah, bring it, man.
And my opinion is that, the United States of America is states, meaning nation states that are united underneath one flag. And that's kind of the point. We all kind of got together. We made an agreement. We signed the Constitution, which was in essence a contract saying that, these are the terms of the contract. We're going to create a government that can do these things. And these are things in the Bill of Rights that they cannot do at all. Part of those were to leave some rights, respective to the individual and the states. That's, 9th and 10th Amendment. But there are limitations of what the federal government could do. So since then, obviously, we've all kind of gotten nationalized. We've gotten used to the whole idea of a strong federal government. But this is, this goes against a lot of the anti-federalist arguments that were happening at the side of the Constitution and the Constitutional Convention. In addition to that, it goes right now. The powers go way, way further for the federal government. Go way further than even what the Constitution says that they're authorized to do. And in some cases, it obviously directly contradicts what they are not allowed to do.
Right. Right. Well, it's like the Bill of Rights. A lot of people think that the Bill of Rights were originally there for the actual individual citizens. Those actual Bill of Rights are what the federal government couldn't do, not what the state governments could do. The state government could take away your guns if it wanted to. It was just saying the federal government can't take your guns away.
Yeah, and that, again, that's part of the state sovereignty is that, the whole idea was that the federal government was supposed to be limited and the states would be able to run their nations, because that's what they were, nation states, in whatever way that they wanted to. And the people would decide in that state how they wanted to run their government. And that's kind of the beautiful point, whole point of this experiment called America, is that all of these countries were able to do an experiment in government.
Right.
All of these nations, that's what these states were. They were doing an experiment in government. They can decide, this is how I want to run things, and they can learn from the countries, the states that are failing, actually emulate the ones that are succeeding. It's a really great process. Especially when you think of an experiment,
right? You
want to have as many different experiments going on at one time, so you get the best results. So if you have, in our case right now, we got 50 different states. If each one was able to control their government however they wanted, we would have a very successful experiment going on, because all these states would be learning from the ones that fail and trying to prevent that from happening to them, and learning from the ones that are succeeding and emulating that so they can reach the same level of success.
Here's another thing you were talking about. I listened to your show, and you wanted to talk about the Commerce Clause and what does it mean? What does it matter? Because there's that's another questionable thing regarding the Constitution. The way people view it today is it the intent of the Commerce Clause? Oh,
absolutely not. I wrote a big article on my website. If anybody would like to go check it out, onthemoveshow.com. It's in the blog. It's actually a pretty lengthy article I wrote about the Commerce Clause. and its original intent. But just to give you guys a heads up, James Madison, he's one of my favorite founding fathers. He sat in the Constitutional Convention, and his notes are some of the only notes that we have from the convention.
Right.
In the Constitutional Convention, James Madison, at no point is anything written down regarding commerce, meaning anything other than gainful trade. Okay. So business, basically. We're selling something. All right. And that was the interpretation of it. But this kind of happened around the New Deal era. FDR, he's trying to push through all this legislation and stuff. And, there was that whole pack the courts threat that I don't know if you're aware of, but he threatened to basically pack the courts because they weren't going along with his New Deal era. The Supreme Court kept shutting him down, saying all of his legislation he was trying to push through was unconstitutional. So he said, okay, well, if you don't play ball, I'm just going to, instead of being at 9, we're going to up the courts to I think it was like 15 judges. So he would get the votes that he wanted. Long story short, a court case came around after he had made this threat. It was called Wickard v. Filburn. This situation was a Ohio farmer. His name was Filburn. He was growing, I believe it was wheat, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, there was a ban on how much wheat that you could grow. You had a cap, a quota, how much you could do. Any more than that, you weren't allowed to. He continued to grow more than his quota, but it was for personal use. He was going to feed his livestock with it. It wasn't going to be sold. And the Supreme Court decided that that was still commerce, even though it wasn't for anything that was being sold. And again, if you look back at the Constitution, the actual interpretation of commerce was business. He wasn't planning on selling it. It was all personal use. And this really expanded the use of the Commerce Clause and all the precedent that came from there. And this is really important when you talk about constitutionality. We know what it says on the paper as far as the Constitution. But what you need to also know is that this is all based on interpretation. So everything that they get expanded on, they create a precedent. They expand on that precedent. And it doesn't matter anymore what is written on that document that we all have sworn an oath to. That doesn't matter anymore to them, to the Supreme Court. They go off of what the previous judges' opinions were, and now it's all just interpretation.
I might have a question that sounds a little silly, but we didn't really talk about what the Commerce Clause is. What is it? Oh,
it's just a little part in the Constitution that basically says that the federal government can regulate commerce. And the one of the main reasons why we actually went into the Constitutional Convention was America was having a whole lot of problems in the Commerce Department, the interstate trade department. And it was because the Articles of Confederation were pretty weak. There was no way for the federal government to resolve an issue between states that were having some kind of dispute. So the Commerce Clause gave the ability of the federal government to come in and try to resolve issues between states concerning commerce.
So, for example, could that be construed to like pollution? Let's just say, I think we had this conversation. We have a business in Alabama. There's a business in Mississippi, and that business is polluting its shit over into, Mississippi. It's not hurting anyone in Alabama. It's good to go there, but it's bothering somebody in Mississippi because of the pollutants or whatever. It's a negative externality to that other state. Is that where the government could come in and say, hey, man, you got to quit doing this. You're bothering someone else's life, liberty, pursuit of happiness because of what you're doing. You're pollutants.
The argument could definitely be made, but at the time, what was more concerning, what was more of a factor in this was states were charging ridiculous tariffs on goods from other states. And it was causing a lot of tension between these states, and it was actually threatening to dissolve the union. And it really, if it wasn't for the Constitutional Convention and the fact that the indispensable man George Washington was there and part of that, who knows what would have happened.
Well, like we were under the Articles of Confederation. That was our first constitutional government originally for about 6 or 7 years. But my question is, under the Articles of Confederation, did they not have some sort of like, hey, you could drive your buggy through here. It's good. I almost said car. You could drive your buggy through here, and we can't tax you on these goods because you're passing by, and we have like this loose affiliation with each other.
At that point, these states were independent. I mean, the federal government was so weak that they really couldn't do anything. The states could just ignore them. They had no teeth. So that was the biggest problem, and that was why in the Constitutional Convention they had to find a way to strengthen the federal government while also making sure there was a balance between states' rights and individual rights, and they did so at the time with tremendously smart checks and balances. the system wasn't perfect, and you know, that's not me passing a judgment on them or the Constitution, but you know, things have changed and things have led to different things. Different precedents have been created, and now it's you know, it's a totally different ball game now compared to what it was then.
Absolutely. Hey, one more question before we take our first commercial break. You know, what is a democracy? What is a republic? And which one are we in now?
Technically, right now, I'll cut to the end real fast. Technically, right now, we're in both. But let me explain what we're actually in. As far as what a democracy is, a direct democracy is where people vote on issues. You know, so if we want to decide,
so we have like Kurt, Heather, and me. We're like, we want to ban guns because we hate guns.
I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want to ban guns.
It doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter because you're overruled by Mac, Heather, and myself. We're for guns.
Wait a minute, you don't know how I'm going to vote.
Yeah, I don't think I'd vote that way.
Yeah, Johnny.
Okay, fine.
I think he's trying to be a dictator.
Yeah, he's trying to be a dictator.
So let's explain what dictatorships are.
I'm my dictator.
Please explain that, Mac.
A democracy, though, is just basically people voting on the issues. And the difference between a democracy and a republic is you don't vote for the issue specifically. In a republic, you vote for people to vote for them for you. So you elect people to kind of handle your stuff for you. And right now, especially being that we're in the state of Washington, we do have direct democracy. We have the initiative ballot process where we can actually vote on issues. And we also have a republic where we elect individuals to vote for other things in the legislation as well. So we are in both right now.
Anyway, so hey, this is Johnny Rocket here at the Johnny Rocket Launchpad, always launching ideas in your direction. The Northwest's only rock and roll libertarian radio show. We're here with our special guest, Mr. Mack Worley. Got some more questions for him, and we're going to listen to what Billy Burns, whatever chaps his ass, so stick around.
Hi, this is Tatiana Moroz. The Johnny Rocket Launchpad is the Northwest's only rock and roll libertarian radio show. Tune in to hear